Hello and welcome. I'm AJ.
I'm Alex.
And this is NTVN New Tech Vintage Nerds.
Woo!
Today we're going to talk about a topic we touched on with one of our last episodes on Ceph for your local home. Today
Sort
we're
of.
going to talk about a network attached storage or NAS. What is it and why did we do with it what we do? So,
You do what you do.
absolutely. But before we dive into our main topic of storage, what did you automate this week? Did you automate something?
No.
Really? That's
I'm,
boring.
I'm thinking. No, I don't think so.
Well, I did something. I created a big calendar. Offline, we talked about my mother needing a calendar and we needing something that we can manage easily. So I created a calendar based on Magic Mirror, an open source project by our fellow Dutchman Michael Theo.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's cool. So I'm going to place a monitor at her house with a Raspberry Pi behind it, and it pulls information from Google Calendar, and it's easy to manage. We can put entries into it, so it's easy. It's low maintenance, I hope. So we'll see.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. Both hands. So, storage, network attached storage, NAS.
Yeah, boring. No, it's not.
Boring.
It depends. What do you do with it?
Yeah. I mean, before this small introduction, we talked about a little bit about storage, about which NAS we had. Man, it's going good. It's a good Friday.
It's
We're recording on
wonderful.
Friday.
Yeah, it's well, the weather has been shit, so yeah, that has its impact.
Yeah.
Anyway, so basically, I think we've all been using either QNAP, Synology, or TrueNAS, or FreeNAS, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it.
We had some
It's all called
readiness.
TrueNAS now, isn't it?
Yeah, and readiness was something where in there.
I don't know. I've never used it. You've got what's it called? RAID something.
Sure, if you say
Can't
so.
remember. Can't remember.
Yeah.
Well, I'm well. At least that's not one I use. But I've used all three of them. But what have you used, or what are you using?
Well, I used the readiness. I'm not sure if that's the brand or the model. Um,
Isn't that Acer
I
or
can't remember.
something?
I can't remember, and I'm googling readiness by Netgear.
Yeah, no, that's the one. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I used that one after that because it was old and slow. I switched to a Synology thanks to some interesting sponsors of VM Guru. But now I switched to a self-made system, self-built system, a TrueNAS box. I wanted something else, something faster, something speedier with 10 gigs, and it does all that.
So, in all fairness, I've actually my very first real NAS was a QNAP, and a fairly expensive one at that, a QNAP 8-bay, which I've had for a very long time. I think I've always had that for 10 years. Was very reliable, but slow.
Mhm.
It had 8 spinning drives in it. You couldn't. Well, it did have acceleration with SSDs, but that back then that was all very early stages.
Mhm.
So not a whole lot that was actually usable. And because I was fed up with that, um, once we moved to our new house, I built a TrueNAS, well, a serious TrueNAS box, which had 16 spinning drives and two SSDs
Okay.
and a shitload of RAM and 10 gig cards. And that thing was a monster. I think it did 50 or 60,000 IOPS.
Why?
That thing
Why?
was insane because I could. Um, it
Good.
had one very, very, very big downside. The
Power
power
consumption.
consumption was insane as well.
Yeah.
And seriously, that that was the best NAS in my home lab ever.
Hmm.
Ever. By far. It was so fast. But that thing alone was like, I think 400 watts or
Oh
so.
my goodness. Yeah, that was actually one of the reasons that I switched to TrueNAS because I wanted to cut back on my power consumption. I had that Synology and I had three Intel NUCs and I think some Raspberry Pis, and I wanted to consolidate that all into one box. So the box I'm using right now does all that. It's an AMD system with TrueNAS on it, and it takes about 40, 50 watts.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
that's pretty good, and it's got, let's see, four spinning disks, each 12 terabytes, and I put it into two VDEVs. Well, uh, it's actually a pretty good RAID system. I can lose two disks and still have my data as long as they don't fail into the same
VDEV.
VDEV.
Yeah.
And I got a Asus Hyper card in it with four NVMe
Oh, yeah.
drives.
Exactly. Yeah. The time 16 card.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that it's fast and it's hardly using any power, at least compared to the other systems. And it's much quieter here. Well, the storage box is in the next room, so
Yeah, so
that's cute.
the 16 drive box was actually also a mix of SAS and SATA drives, and there were a couple of 10K SAS drives in there as well.
Mm,
Um, yeah, the power consumption of that thing was just through the roof, and it was seriously, it was wonder to work with. It was very fast. I could run the whole home lab off of it and reboot 16 VMs at the same time, and it wouldn't break a sweat. But at some point, the power bill, well, actually, the power cost kept rising in the region. So the amount of money we had to pay per kilowatt went up significantly, and that was at that time I said, okay, so this is not tangible. We can't keep this up.
yeah.
Um, so then I bought a Synology. Actually, my very first Synology, an RS 815, which is a rack mount, 4 bay, with three, I think, also 12 gig drives and an SSD for read acceleration. And I ran my home lab off of that, and then the power consumption of my home lab went down from far over 800 watts to the 266 watts it now consumes.
For the people listening, Alex just watched his energy display.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, that's on my monitoring system here. So it's actually currently consuming 266 watts. So that's for a
Nice.
3 node VMware cluster with well, now vSAN, and a, I have to say this correctly. So, and the Synology NAS and two switches. One is a gigabit and has 10 gig uplinks, and the other one is a 16 port 10 gig switch.
Oh,
And all of them together are these 266 watts.
oh,
So
that's
that's
pretty
not,
good.
that's not too bad. Yeah. So that's the reason why I do a lot of home hosting, because honestly, it's not really worth putting it somewhere in the cloud or in a colo, because that will cost me more money than running this.
Yeah, and you got a good ISP with a gig uplink.
I've got actually two ISPs, and the main one is fiber with gig uplink. Yeah,
Yeah.
but so the Synology initially, what I used it for was connected as iSCSI for my home lab, but then you noticed that, well, although it has four 1 gig internet uh, network interfaces, well, it's really that Friday, isn't it? Um, so it's got four 1 gig network interfaces, and you can actually bond them all together, but the four drives in there, they don't really perform that well.
No.
There is an option to mount an extension case to it, so you can add another four, but that is, I think that's based on eSATA, if I can
Yeah.
remember correctly. Um, I don't think that will actually make a huge difference.
No, I think it's more for extension on storage capacity, not on speed.
Exactly. So what I did in the end is I decided that I was going to dismiss the Synology NAS as a home lab storage, and I moved over to vSAN in the VMware environment. So that means that currently the Synology is only serving up files and multimedia storage and that kind of stuff. Um, but I do have a problem with it,
Oh, what?
and that is we are both Mac users, and Mac has this wonderful backup system called Time Machine,
Yep.
which has a couple of quirks. And you have to configure stuff in a certain way, and then it works. And if you do not, it doesn't.
Yep.
The thing is, I would like to use the NAS, the Synology NAS, for my Time Machine backup as well as file sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And for now, what I noticed is that it's neither or. I can either use it as a Time Machine backup, and then Time Machine backups run really fast because it's connected to two, well, 1 gig bonded interfaces, and my Macs are on Wi-Fi, so the initial backup takes, I don't know, half a day, and then it just updates them every hour, and then it's like backup in a flash. But when I then try to approach a file share, which it does with SMB, server message block or SIFs or Windows file sharing, whatever you want to call it, it's terrible. It's the performance is horrible. It does kilobytes instead of megabytes.
Okay.
The thing is, if I optimize the Synology for file sharing goes like a train. It's wonderful. But then my Time Machine backups do not run.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, like I said, either or. And to date, I actually had, well, until a couple of weeks ago, I actually had a separate TrueNAS machine just stuffed with SSDs and
Hmm.
two 10 gig interfaces. And the only goal that thing had was be a Time Machine backup box. So it
Okay.
was actually called Time Machine. And it was just, I think, serving up 2.5 terabytes of SSD storage and just run.
Sorry, but for backup to 10 gigs interface.
Yeah, that because it had lying around.
Ah, okay. I was just wondering because
No, that was the dual port 10 gig card from the old NAS.
Ah, okay.
The 400 watt thingy.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so this box actually didn't consume a whole lot of power. I think this was around 80 watts or so.
yeah.
But the board was old and it died, and now it's dead. And I don't have a time machine backup anymore.
Ah, well, mine does go to a TrueNAS system as well, but for some reason, I'm not discarding the possibility that I screwed up, but for some reason, the backup doesn't work anymore.
But you do not have this either or problem with TrueNAS, do you?
No, I actually am using three protocols. I'm using NFS. For some things, I use an SMB and, well, actually, um, Time Machine goes through SMB these days as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, nobody uses AFP anymore.
no. And I don't think it's slow. Well, actually, it's not working right now, so you could call it slow. Um, but on the other hand, the rest of the data transactions are pretty fast. I mean, I added off the NAS on my Windows system and as well as on my Mac by Wi-Fi. It's going great. It's just that the backup failed, again and again and again. I already created a new time machine location, but it still doesn't back up. So I probably screwed up.
So do you run TrueNAS Core or TrueNAS Scale?
Um, Core is the BSD one, Scale is the Linux one.
Yeah.
I'm running Scale.
Are you running the last one, the most recent one?
No, I'm not right now. I still have to do the upgrade.
So apparently, according to Tom Lawrence, it's got a lot of improvements.
Yeah, well, I really, really need to make a backup of my NAS. And I mean, most of the data is being back up to cold storage. I can't remember. We talked about it a couple of episodes before. Something like Glacier, but from a different brand. I drive. Um, but we produced the last few weeks a lot of video material. I think 700 gigs. So I have to keep backing that up. And
And
since
that's not
my
just us, right? I mean, that's.
no, it's not just us.
I was just making sure.
Well, no, that's not us. But my uplink is 100, yeah, 100 megabit per second. So it's taking a while, and then I have to configure it, and I forget it, and
Yeah, there you go.
no, not forgetting other priorities.
So you run TrueNAS Scale
Yep.
on an AMD. Is
Yep.
that a box you bought or something that you built yourself?
That's something I built myself. I did my best to find the perfect motherboard. Well, actually, there's no perfect motherboard. Perfect would be it's free and it has a lot of PCI slots. Um, no, I selected an ASRock motherboard that had bifurcation because I needed that for the hypercards.
Yeah.
It has support for DDR5 memory, although it's storage, but I want a speedy machine in every sense of the way.
Does it have ECC?
Uh, Unfortunately, not. That's one of the things when I do it again, it probably will have a motherboard that supports ECC.
Yeah,
I mean, the error
DDR5.
correction, it's,
Yeah,
yeah,
DDR5 does that differently, right?
yeah.
There is a different way of doing error correction in DDR5.
Um, I know it's different. I don't know the intricacies.
Yeah, I've seen a movie or in a video on it not too long ago, but I can't remember. But would you go back to DDR4 and ECC, or would you prefer to stay on DDR5?
I think I would go back to DDR4 because of the price difference.
Yeah,
I mean, when the time comes and I need to replace this machine, probably DDR5 will be the legacy one, so it's no
exactly. Yeah,
problem. Um, but if I want to extend my memory now, because there's 64 gigs in the no, sorry, 32 gigs in the box, and it's too little
not enough.
because sorry,
Not enough.
it's nearly not
I
enough.
think the rule of thumb was a gig per terabyte of storage, or per
Yeah,
gigabyte.
no, I think terabyte.
Terabyte, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the box has 48 terabyte raw. No,
Right.
that's not correct. That's only the spinning disks. Um, so it's 48 terabytes raw and 8 on the SSD side. Yeah, so it's 64.
Yeah, then 32 is not enough. No.
No, and especially since I'm running 2 virtual machines on it, one hosting my Docker containers, one hosting my. Oh, it's not anymore. I was going to say one is hosting my telephony server, my a VoIP server, but I put that in the cloud, so that saved me a couple of gigabytes. But it's not enough.
You're not using the integrated container platform?
Um, no, because that's a Kubernetes platform, and it's not. That's probably my mind, but it's not flexible enough for me because, well, I got a storage box, so the storage goes onto the box. Why do I need to be able to do a persistent volume claim and all that other goodness from Kubernetes, where I can just run the container in that virtual machine and say storage, or
Yeah.
pointing it to an NFS location. This is your storage.
Yeah. 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 Unfortunately, though, you can't really internally hand through the storage from the storage system, right? You have to go around the
Yeah,
outside.
correct.
That is something I find a bit annoying.
Yeah, I created a NFS share, so I could do it from the outside,
Yeah.
as well as the virtual machine running the containers has a 1 terabyte local storage. So for stuff
Yeah.
that like Plex is a bit picky on where you put library. When you do it through NFS, it's slow as hell.
Yeah.
So that's the local storage for, and
Been there.
yeah,
On SMB, it's doable though.
yeah. And I don't understand why NFS is so slow for that.
I don't know. I don't know.
Probably locking.
At some point in time, I got fed up with the virtual version of it, and I just bought a Windows PC cheap ass thing and put it on
Oh
there
yeah,
and threw in an NVIDIA card and a handful of SSDs I had lying around. Here you go, storage, graphics, shut up now.
yeah. Well,
And ever since that ever since I done that, it's well been running like a charm. Really,
yeah.
never had an issue.
For the listeners to the previous episode, I don't need Plex anymore because I collected all the streaming services. So
Yeah, yeah, including my Plex server.
exactly. No,
Anyway, so the TrueNAS box. How did you decide what hardware to buy?
I decided first that I wanted to use a hypercard because of the.
Oh, that was your
That
starting
was my
point.
starting point.
All right,
I knew I wanted to go with NVMe drives, and I knew that I wanted the box to be able to run a lot of that.
right.
So that was. Now I need the motherboard. What kind of motherboard will fit this card? That had to be one that supported bifurcation. Bifurcation, nice word.
And a lot of PCIe
Yeah,
lanes, obviously.
yeah. And then I went a bit overboard because I wanted to be future proof, so it had to do PCI Express. What is it? 5, 4?
5, probably. Yeah, 4 is the sort of standard now.
Yeah, then it was PCI 5,
Yeah.
and I wanted to be able to put a second hypercard in it, so it had to have two PCI slots containing 16 lanes as well as
That was
bifurcation.
expensive.
It was a pretty cheap board. I don't exactly remember how much it cost, but it was a ASRock motherboard that was pretty cheap.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Um, well, and
Do you run any specific drives? So do you have 4 spinning drives and a couple of
yeah,
NVMe drives? Just pick, did you just pick the cheapest one, or did you really go for the best NAS drive, or how did you go about that?
I unfortunately didn't go the route of the cheap drives. Well, unfortunately, because of the price. But I want stability. I want to be able to say if something happens in the house, I know my storage is safe. So I went for the what's it called? Enox discs from Intel. I I Google. I always keep forgetting. It's Intel drives.
The SSDs,
No, the
spinning ones.
the spinning ones.
I didn't even know Intel made spinning drives.
Sorry, Seagate. Sorry.
Ah, okay.
Um, I use those, and I
I think there are only 2 factories left making spinning drives, isn't there? There's a Seagate Quantum and Hitachi.
yeah, I believe so.
I
Yeah,
think those are the only 2 left, aren't they?
yeah, because there was Western Digital that is now.
Seagate, and I think Quantum is now also Seagate, and Fujitsu bought, Hitachi, sorry, bought the stuff off of IBM.
Yeah,
I think that was it, isn't it? I think those are the only ones left.
yeah, I think so.
Oh no, Toshiba's in that game as well.
I don't know. I just went on home server. I think that's the site. What are the best drives for NAS?
Oh, Server Home,
Server,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, by Patrick, yeah.
And for the NVMe, I went with the not the cheapest ones. They were pretty cheap, but I wanted to buy them larger. I wanted to buy the 8 terabyte discs, but my wallet didn't allow for that. Um, so so I have now the 2 terabyte, and I don't.
And you got 4 of them.
Yeah, I'm going to log into my NAS. I don't like that. I don't know which ones I bought.
WDs.
Yeah. And my NAS is not responding.
Oh,
Uh, Wrong one. That was the Synology IP address. No, and for the.
so many to choose from.
Sorry?
So many to choose from.
Yeah. I created a home board actually to be able to select because I can't remember. So the storage.
We should do an episode on home pages and home
Yeah,
boards.
that's interesting.
There you go.
And RAID Z2 with SDC. Those are. Why don't you tell me the brand?
It doesn't do that.
It tells me the serial.
Yeah, that's all it does.
It's a Seagate ST12000.
Okay, there you go. Seagate 10.
And the other VDEV, I want to know these. That's actually the first one. It's raw usable capacity 5.15 tips, but those are fast tips. Oh, it's a Kingston.
Kingston's. All
Yeah,
right.
Kingston,
Well,
2 terabytes.
I've got a Kingston lying around here. It died on me.
Okay. I don't want to know.
I don't know. It just doesn't work anymore.
So
But that was a 500 gig one.
yeah,
So, so Kingston SSDs and Seagate
yep.
drives. Any specific choice of controller? Well, for the NVMe's, you don't really need a controller. You just need
Yeah,
PCIe.
I need the Asus HyperCard because there are 4 of them, and
Yeah, but with bifurcation, you don't need a multiplexing
correct.
switch chips, so they are just linked to the onboard NVMe PCIe
Yeah,
lanes.
yeah.
There you go.
It was a bit
Which
of
has
a
two per drive.
sorry.
Oh no, four. It's got
Yeah, 4 per
four per
drive.
drive.
Yeah.
So on a times 16 card, you can run 4 drives.
Yes. Yeah. And it was a bit of a journey to find the correct um, um, card. I mean the HyperCard. I knew pretty quickly that that's the one I wanted because um, other cards use RAID controllers and stuff like that to create a
Yeah,
RAID, and I don't want that. If something fails, I just want to be able to replace
or
the card or whatever.
the micro switch, PCIe
Yeah,
switch, which basically only slows things down.
yeah, it slows things down and it costs power.
Yeah, as well. Although not too much, but it's mainly a performance hawk.
Yeah. So that and the what's more in the box? A CD player? No, just kidding.
So now you've got an AMD.
Yeah.
The bottom was we talked to motherboard, we talked to drive. Oh, we haven't talked about a NIC.
There's a 10 gig. Wow.
Dual port, single port.
It's a dual port. It's connected with one port. I was too cheap to purchase the other cable.
Cheap ass.
Sorry. No, it's
SFP or
SFP.
copper?
Yeah, SFP.
SFP. Right.
Because it's in the next room, and I want to, in the future, want to place it into my shed. I mean, all the air cooling it can get, and it's pretty quiet then in here. And wow, what's the most known brand for fiber channel cards?
I don't know.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The Intel, Chelseo, Marvel, Connectex.
Connectex, that was it.
Oh, right. So it's
Connectex 3 card.
it's an NVIDIA now, basically.
Yeah.
Because NVIDIA bought them.
Yeah, so it's an Mellanox. Now I remember.
Mellanox indeed. Yeah, that was the name I was looking for.
Yeah, so it's a Mellanox
Connectex 4?
Connectex 3.
3. Yeah. All right.
So it's a pretty good card.
It's a nice card. Yeah, definitely.
And it's quick. The problem is that now that's 10 gigs. My Windows computer where I do the editing on is 10 gig. My laptop is...
Now you want to take it everywhere.
Yeah. So I got my eye set on a box for my Mac, so I can connect my Mac through USB-C to 10 gig.
Yeah, there you go.
It's getting pretty costly.
Yeah, tell me about it. I know. I should put it in a 10 gig switch in here as well.
Yeah. So you got TrueNAS. You wanted a new TrueNAS box, you told me one time.
Yeah, so the old TrueNAS died in well, not in flames, but it did die in smoke. You know, when smoke comes out, smoke needs to be in.
Yep.
Smoke comes out, it breaks down. Yeah, it was an old box. It had DDR3 and it was a Xeon E3 something with 32 gigs. It ran okay ish, but the BIOS was already. I had issues actually accessing the BIOS, but it would just give me a blue screen. That was it. So not a blue screen like in Windows, but just a plain blue screen. When you press Del at boot, it would just give you a blue screen.
The screen was blue.
Nothing else. The screen register, the BIOS
Yeah,
blue.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
it. No menu options, no
That's
nothing,
not
just a blue
good.
screen. No, no. So it was already. I was aware that it was already dying, but yeah. So right now I pull the plug on it, and it's just off.
Yeah. Are you going to replace
Uh,
it with a new box?
well, because I now have this issue where I have to decide: do I want to have a time machine backup of my Macs, and we have two private Macs in the house. Or do I want to have a proper file performance? And I want a backup until I need to copy some files. Then I want file
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
performance,
yeah.
right? So actually, I want both, and it sucks that the Synology doesn't do that properly. Um, Also, the Synology is getting a bit dated. It's an 815 plus, which is now I think 8 years old, eight ish,
Hmm.
something like that. It's got an Atom CPU, so it's not the fastest. It's got four 1 gig interfaces, which is also a bit of a bottleneck.
Yeah,
I tried to actually move everything in the server rack up to 10 gigs, um, which I have apart from that one. Um, and I was looking at Synology boxes, rack mounted, which had 10 gigs. And then I had to sit down for the price of it because I think the cheapest one was about $700 or so.
Hmm.
And no, no.
No.
And then there is no guarantee that the problem will not persist,
Yeah.
right? That the new Synology software has this issue tackled. So I was looking at a TerraMaster,
Hmm.
which is also €700 or $700. But then I can just put an NVMe drive in and install TrueNAS on it
Yeah.
and have a rack mount system which does not consume a whole lot of power, has all the features of a NAS, but then it runs
Yeah.
TrueNAS. So that is something I'm actually looking into. Or I will buy an AMD system with a lot of NVMe slots or a lot of PCIe slots where I can then put NVMe cards
Hmm.
in. Um,
Something like an
I
Epic
think
board or something.
an Epic. I was looking actually at an Epic board. Yes. The thing is, I don't know what that does power
Hmm.
wise. I have that nobody's done that. So I honestly don't know where I will end up when I do
Yeah.
that. I think because it's NVMe, it won't consume a lot of power, but then I still have those three spinning drives I don't want to get rid of because they store a lot of Plex content and other stuff, which is fairly space hoggy.
Yeah.
Um, so that isn't helping. So I'm still in the limit.
Hmm. Interesting.
I have no idea what I'm going to do. I do know that the Epic board I had actually had my eye on was already $500, 500-ish dollars,
Yeah.
which if you go that route, you better be sure that it is the route. Excuse me, the route you want to go, because $500 is not something you toss out of the
No.
window. Well, maybe some people do, but I don't. Um, so that is a challenge. Also, then finding the right chassis to put it in, because I do want to put it into the rack, because the rack is in my garage and that is very nice and far away.
Yeah.
So I'm not bothered by the noise it makes. Although it's not that bad, but well, in the summer it is, because then the fans start switching on
Yeah.
because it gets warm in there. But I don't want that noise in my office or anywhere else in the house. So it's very nice that I've got the rack in the garage, so I can just put it down and forget about it.
Yeah.
Just use the functionality. But I was looking at diverse server racks that would be able to host like you said, the Asus card in a full size. Okay, so that doesn't come in a low profile
No.
card. So I have to have a full size card, and it would probably mean that I would have to have at least a 2U, but probably a 3U
Yeah.
server chassis or bigger. Um, combining that with hot swap drive slots, it tends to get expensive
Yeah.
again. So when you spend $500 on the board, you spend another $250 on the chassis. You have to buy a proper power supply, and hop flops were up at $700-800.
Yeah.
And then I might as well buy the TerraMaster, because then they're equally priced.
Yeah. On the other hand, I don't know what the performance difference is between that one and an Epic board. I mean, if you got an Epic CPU on that board, you have performance for your storage, but also if you want to run virtual machines on it or containers, you got some performance there.
I'm looking into putting more stuff into containers. I'm actually doing that already with the Turing Pi cluster, which we talked about last time. Link in the description. And so I'm really looking to move stuff off of the VMware cluster and onto any container platform I can do. So I'm actually now in the process of moving Grafana off, because Grafana isn't too heavy on the
Hmm?
CPU. It's mostly heavy on influx, because it's burning influx. Um, so the influx server actually is the one using the most IOPS and the most CPU cycles. The Grafana not so much. So I thought, well, that's a nice candidate, and it runs on ARM as well. So that was a good one. And some other stuff I was looking at, to move to one of the RK1s that I have lying
Hmm?
around, and they have local storage. So I'm not using a NAS or a SAN for that, other than it links to for instance, the Navidrome
Hmm?
container has the SMB share with all the MP3s and MP4s and FLACs and my whole music collection mounted, so that I can then play the CDs I digitized over the past 40 years on my Sonos system.
Yeah, okay. So more to come.
But that's hosted on the
Yeah.
NAS.
So more to come on your storage journey.
Probably it's not as done as yours is. So like I said, still on the fence on what direction it will go. The first next major investment in a hobby in my opinion will probably be a new 3D printer, because this one is really rubbing my nose.
Okay. Well, perhaps you can print your own discs with it.
Well, I did actually print disc brackets with it,
Ah,
but not discs. I don't think that will work.
okay. Well, I think that's enough storage for today.
It is.
Man, where do I put that? Ha ha ha. Sorry, that was an attempt for a joke. Um, well, on to the tips for today. Do you have any tips?
Do I have any tips? Do you have any tips?
Yeah. Have you
I'll go for
have you
it.
seen the annoying clips on our channel yet? The shorts.
Yes, it was very confronting. Thank you.
Sorry. Well, that's actually my tip, not to create shorts, but to use something that's called Opus Clip. It's I'm reading it right now. It's a generative AI video tool that repurposes long videos into shorts in one click. Well, actually, it's more clicks. You have to paste it, and you have to choose which type of font you want, and if you want it like Think Media or something else. But actually, it transcribes your whole video, and then it selects parts of it where it thinks that it will have a good chance of going viral or at least attract some attention. So it's when this episode is done and I have edited it all and all the goofy stuff out or actually put all goofy stuff in. Then I put it into Opus clip, and then it spits out a couple of clips that I can use or edit a bit more. So that's a pretty good tool.
Very nice.
Well, have you thought of a tip or not?
Well, I had a challenging issue with my spam filter. So, for those of you out there who do also host their own email at home, I do, because it's cheaper and because Jeff Bezos and all other friends cannot read my email. I used a spam filter which was called Xeams or Xeams. And I don't know what happened. I wouldn't put it at Xeams because that is just a reputable company. But for some reason, mails were disappearing randomly. And I had no idea where they went. No, people didn't get bounce. So non-delivery reports or whatever didn't happen. They just were gone.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, the spam filter actually apparently tossed emails. I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know where, but they just vanished. So I now introduced a new spam gateway or a spam filter, AE Mail Gateway, which is actually by Proxmox, which is called the Proxmox Mail Gateway.
Okay.
And I have to say, it was very easy to stand up. It was, I downloaded an ISO, created a VM, mounted it to the VM. The installation was done in 10 minutes, and the initial configuration was done in another 10. Well, maybe 15. And I had it up and running within the hour.
Oh, nice. That's quick.
So it is, yeah. I do have to tune it, so even it has to learn a bit your the email habits that you have and such. So we're still working on that, so that the actual spam filtering is spam filtering. But it works pretty good right now.
So my mail will mail will come to you again then.
Oh, again.
Well, if I send a mail, then it reaches you.
It does now. Yes.
Cool. Okay, that's a good tip. Yeah,
I think so.
Guys and girls and
bombshell.
Thanks for listening. If you have anything that you want to tell us, let us know down below in the comments or at the appropriate place. And we really like to know what you're using for storage in your home. Are you using storage, except for storage bins, but actually digital storage? Let us know also in the comments, and we'll get back to you on that. And with that, I'm AJ.
I'm Alex.
See you next time.